Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's the final episode of 2024. I hope you're all doing fine and undoubtedly flying high as a kite after Newcastle's 2-0 win over Manchester United at Old Trafford. And what a win it was. I'm Andrew Musgrove. And let's get into what happened last night. Newcastle United were better in every single measurement. They wanted it more. They had more quality and punished Man United for lack of fight, organisation and desire. Man United were shocking. I was surprised at just how passive they were, especially in that opening 30 minutes. But make no mistake about it, Newcastle United were absolutely excellent. They played Manchester United off the park and should have won it by more than just 2 goals. In this episode, we're going to have a little look back at the game, plus a quick mention for a Toon player who now looks destined for the exit with the January transfer window set to open tomorrow. This episode is brought to you by NordVPN. And I just want to say, if you've thought about taking advantage of our special discounted offer and haven't yet, please do so now. It's a great offer. It keeps you protected, but it also helps support the podcast. And I really can't thank you enough. If you've already signed up and if you're going to do it now, hit the link in the podcast description box. It is much appreciated. Let's get into the game then. Last night, what a game it was. Let me know in the comments how you're feeling about it. If you're on YouTube, give a thumbs up. Like I said, dive into those comments. And if you're on the audio channel, please leave us a rating and review and share the podcast amongst your Newcastle United supporting friends and family. As you can see, I'm not in the studio this afternoon. I'm in the in-laws, some lovely house plants behind me, and they had to watch Newcastle United last night beat Manchester United. I took over the TV, took over the lounge, and I said, we're watching it. But I was nervous. I was nervous throughout. But did I have any need to be? Well, I suppose it's just the price you pay for being a Newcastle United fan, isn't it? But as we said, Newcastle United 2, Manchester United 0. Goals from Alexander Isak and Joe Linton. And really, they were carbon copies of each other. Ball down Newcastle United's left, cross into the box. And the Newcastle United player just wanted it more than their counterpart in red. And we celebrate that. We celebrate the fact that Newcastle United had this desire to score and to win. And I think if you're a Manchester United fan, you look at that performance last night and you think of it, you look at it with dread, really. Not only did Newcastle have more commitment and more quality, they were set up so much better. They knew what they were doing, and simply Ruben Almirón's men just didn't. They looked like strangers on the park right from the off. You know, starting Eriksen and Casemiro in the middle is just asking for trouble. And it was a real strange one. It allowed Tonali, Bruno, and Joe Linton to win that key battle of midfield. And that was always going to be key. That was the area that if you managed to win and win early, you were going to win the game. They couldn't be contained, Newcastle's middle three. But for me, what was even a little bit stranger than Man United playing Casemiro and Eriksen was the fact that Man United didn't press Newcastle United. So Newcastle United's defence were allowed to play it out from the back. Dúbravka was allowed time on the ball. Schär, Burn, Trippier and Lewis Hall as well. And then they were allowed to pass it into midfield without any obstacles, really. You know, the midfield from a Manchester United point of view was so passive. And I always think if you're not pressing, that's fine. But then you've got to be close to the next bank of players. And Man United were nowhere near Bruno Tonali or Joe Linton, and they were punished for them. The midfield was just overrun. And Newcastle United, with that kind of triangle sequence between the three, gradually getting up the pitch, whether it's then switching it out to the flanks, Isak dropping deep, whatever it was just too easy for Newcastle United. And there will be some regret that they didn't end up beating Manchester United by more than 2 goals. But I think really, really important that they got the win. Obviously it is. But for me, it's more than just the win. I said before the game that Newcastle United have to stop being the Warriors. They have to stop fearing teams. They have to stop fearing the name or the badge or the location. You know, you take those 3 elements away from last night's game, Newcastle United have beaten a bang average mid-table side. And that's something that we should expect them to do if they're going to challenge for the top 4. Yet there were so many nerves going into this game, and totally understandable. I get it. You know, this is Manchester United, people are saying, and this is Newcastle United. When you expect them to do something, they will slip up. They go to Old Trafford. They've only won twice there since 1972. Not anymore, but that was before the game, wasn't it? They'd only won there twice, the last time 2013. And remember what happened against West Ham. People were right to be a bit apprehensive, a little bit cautious. But for me, that West Ham game served as a motivation. Don't let it happen again. Do not become a cropper. We expect you to beat this side. Do not let us down again. You have to be beating these sides if you're going to be in the top four. And all those concerns are valid points. But Newcastle United, had they struggled against Manchester United, a team devoid of leadership, a team devoid of instruction, a team devoid of passion, especially given the run that Newcastle United were on coming into this game, I think there would have been questions for a lot of people to answer. The players on the pitch would have had to take a deep look at themselves. Why can't you beat sides like this? Thankfully, they have done. Eddie Howe said after the game that we need to win games like this to achieve what we want to on a regular basis. And I think that's such an important point, because for too long, Newcastle have fallen when they shouldn't. But against Manchester United on Monday evening, they did as they should have, and they beat Manchester United. And for me, it could prove to be worth much more than just 3 points against Manchester United. It could be, and it ought to be, a reset of the mindset which has held them back. And that is falling when they shouldn't be. That is falling with the expectation, and not, I don't think, an unfair expectation. I stand by the fact that I was willing to bet every penny I had on Newcastle beating West Ham, because why shouldn't they have done? Why shouldn't you, as a Newcastle United fan, think and hope and expect Newcastle United to beat its side down the bottom if they're going to go for Europe? And why shouldn't you have gone to Old Trafford last night thinking, hoping, expecting Newcastle to beat Manchester? We should have done. I did. I was confident they would do. And yes, I was a nervous wreck watching the game, but thankfully Newcastle United did what we expected them to do. And it really ought to be that kind of turning point. It could be a massive psychological boost for the future of this club, especially, as we say, if they're going to get top four. Now, what a run of games Newcastle United have been on. 5 wins in all competitions, 4 in the league, 13 goals scored, 0 conceded, and confidence is just flowing at the right time ahead of a month, which I think, if you look at it, and we've got to keep grounded, but you look at the month coming up, and Newcastle United have got winnable games everywhere they look. Arguably, the toughest game is against Arsenal in that League Cup semi-final, the first leg, but they've got Wolves, they've got Tottenham, winnable games. Bournemouth is going to be a tough one, but winnable games when Newcastle United are in full flow. And if they can keep this momentum going, they could have one leg, 1 foot, whatever you want to say, in a League Cup final. Of course, the second leg is until February, but they could also be consolidating their place at the top of the Premier League. And momentum, as I said there, is absolutely key. It's crucial. You've got a team that's got that momentum, but you've also got it as individuals. Alexander Isak scoring again, 8 goals in December. He's now just 4 away from equaling Callum Wilson's 47 in the Premier League for Newcastle, and that would take him second on the list. The midfield is flowing. Gordon is getting back to his best, another assist last night. And Lewis Hall, who was my man of the match last night, and you could have picked any one of, well, probably 10 players, because I don't think Martin Dúbravka did enough to get a look in, but you could have picked one of several players to be man of the match. But Lewis Hall for me last night was absolutely crucial, because in the second half, things changed slightly from Newcastle's dominance in their opening 30 minutes. The second half was a little bit more fought, and Newcastle really had to kind of change their approach. Some crucial blocks, some crucial interceptions. Obviously, Man United hit the post. There was one that went wide, but Lewis Hall was just throwing his body in front of everything, getting his foot where it mattered. And again, for me, defensively, his game's improving so much. Attacking wise, we never had any doubt. Of course, he gets an assist last night, but defensively, I thought last night he was absolutely key for Newcastle United, and that's why he gets my man of the match. He's winning the ball in his own box or just outside it, and then carrying the ball forward, getting straight up and running down the pitch and creating attacks. He's just a brilliant player, and he's only going to get better. My man of the match last night. And look, we have to remain grounded, but if this momentum can continue, it really could be a great start for 2025. Another man to mention, Bruno, superb. He was probably my second pick last night for man of the match. This more advanced role is really suiting him. Tonali, I think, has been a massive benefit to him. And he's looking like that £100 million player that we all thought he could get to. The player he maybe thought he was last season. He was an absolute delight to watch at Old Trafford. Just so careful on the ball, picking the pass. I mean, that pass that he put down to Isak in the first half when Isak should have scored. Oh my goodness me, I've watched it several times since. What a ball that was. But just all over the pitch, just calm, collective, winning the fouls very cleverly, being that leader, being that captain. Absolutely brilliant last night. Tonali again. What more can you say about the man? He's just pulling those strings, sitting really deep, and he's being that anchor man that Newcastle United have missed. He's just, he's another delight to watch. Joe Linton again, put in a really good shift. And those three, if they can continue this form, Newcastle United have a midfield to be really reckoned with. I want to mention, though, Martin Dúbravka, and this is the one that I really want to get your opinion on. We've spoken about it a couple of times in the last week or so, but last night, my colleague Aaron Stokes texted me to say, or ask rather, don't you just feel at ease with Martin Dúbravka in goal? It's nice. That was his words. He said it's nice. And I totally agree with him. And what he meant by that, Aaron, was that last night there were several passes back to him, several times when Man United in the second half were pressing him, and Martin Dúbravka just controlled the ball. He dealt with it left, right, chip over the top. And every time the ball was going back to him and it was bouncing once, twice, thrice, I wasn't nervous. No, I wasn't. If that had been Nick Pope, I'm like this. I've got my hands over my eyes. But with Martin Dúbravka, I feel like he's going to control the ball. I feel like he's going to bring it down and he's going to act quickly, but he's going to do the right thing. Nick Pope is into touch. And Nick Pope is a brilliant shot stopper. Is he a better shot stopper than Martin Dúbravka? Arguably, yes. But this is about the team. This is about what makes the team better. And right now, and granted, Newcastle United have not been tested all that much in the last 4 games, but Newcastle United's backline, including the goalkeeper, looks so much more secure. They look so much more comfortable. And I can't help but think whether that's down to Martin Dúbravka and those in front of him knowing if they need to go back, and even if it's a bit of a testing back pass, they've got a goalkeeper there who can handle it. They've got a goalkeeper there who can control it and deal with it. Not a goalkeeper who's nervous with the ball at his feet. And I really think it's making a difference. Now, look, if someone comes in January, a Saudi team offering 10 to 12, 15 million pounds, will Newcastle United think about selling? I think they probably will do. But I tell you what, if they ended up rejecting the bid for him and keeping him until the summer, and he keeps his space in the team, right now I've got no complaints whatsoever, because I think he's earned it. I'm looking forward to seeing him go up against a team that really tests him. Maybe that's Arsenal in the League Cup. Maybe that's Spurs on Saturdays on the 4th. Maybe Dominic Slaney can give him something to think about. But right now, in terms of what makes the team better, Martin Dúbravka is doing that. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you agree. Now Newcastle United are up to 5th. It's a brilliant way to end the year after languishing in mid-table not too long ago. Now, on this podcast, we said Eddie Howe faced a big December. We criticised him when he got things wrong. And I stand by what I said. I stand by what we said as a group on this podcast, because it was all balanced and it was all considered. And I think it was all just as well. I think it was fair. He deserves huge praise now for turning this round. And it is down to him that Newcastle United are looking like a team who now could take a steal for the top 4. And if we'd said that 3 or 4 weeks ago, you would have been laughed out the room. But they've got that momentum. They've got the players in the right position. Tonali looking like that midfielder we thought we signed before the ban. Bruno, as I've mentioned, every player now in their right position. Gordon's not been switched from left to right. Isak's on form. Eddie Howe has to have huge praise for that. And maybe, just maybe, he knew what he was doing with Sancho Tonali. People say you should have put him in sooner, but let's give the manager some credit where it is due. I think what we're going to just briefly talk about now towards the end of this episode is the transfer window, because it does open tomorrow. And I felt towards the end of the game against Manchester United, Isak in particular looked a little bit leggy, looked a little bit tired towards the end. Several players there, and it's no surprise. They'd really put in a good shift. But Eddie Howe just didn't make a substitution, and Isak stayed on. And I do think Newcastle United, in an ideal world, want a striker. They want a striker who can compete with Alexander Isak, someone that Eddie Howe can trust to come off the bench, not only make a difference, but follow the instructions. Maybe he doesn't think William Masula's quite there yet. My concern is Alexander Isak's form, and he's been on fire. What happens if Isak gets injured? Heaven forbid if he gets suspended. We're going to see something similar now with the defence. Who comes in for Fabian Schär with Bob not quite ready yet? Emil Kraft out injured. Is it going to be Lloyd Kelly and Dan Burn? That partnership worries me slightly, and it reaffirms the need to go out and get a replacement for Fabian Schär, not just for when this happens, but also probably from the summer as well. You want a young right-sided centre-back to come in. At the moment, Newcastle United don't have those options. So that's going to test Newcastle United. And my concern is what happens if that happens up top with Alexander Isak? Who comes in? Gordon in the centre. Well, Gordon is suddenly finding his feet again on the left. William Masula, for whatever reason, anyhow, doesn't think he's ready. So in an ideal world, I would love the transfer window to close with Newcastle United having signed a centre forward, someone who can also possibly play on the right. My pick, Matheus Cunha. I know it's not going to happen, but I think he would be an absolutely superb signing for Newcastle United. He'd be expensive, but my goodness me, he is absolutely superb. And you're not just bringing someone in to fill in for Alexander Isak, you're bringing in someone to compete with him, and that's what you want. He can play anywhere across that midfield three, that forward three, left wing, right wing, up top. He can play as a number 10 as well, so it gives Eddie Howe the option in the future to maybe change the formation should he need to. But that would be my dream signing for the January transfer, and don't think it's going to happen. Let me know who you would like to see Newcastle bring in January. If you've got any names, pop into the comments. But we do appear to be nearing an exit of one player. Miguel Almiron, a great servant for the club, has barely featured this season at all. It's quite clear his time on Tyneside is over. He's been linked with a return to the MLS, to Charlotte FC specifically. He is their designated player, if I've got that right, which basically means he can only sign for that MLS team. No one else can get the steal on Charlotte FC. A bit of a weird rule, but that's the rule it is. Today, Christian Fuchs, who is the former Leicester City centre-back, remember the guy who did the big throw-ins, he's spoken about Miguel Almiron joining Charlotte FC in a bit of a bizarre move, but is essentially, in my opinion, confirmed that Miguel Almiron is moving to Charlotte FC. And this is what he's had to say. He's a great player, but I don't really want to talk about him as he hasn't signed yet. There are always a lot of names being associated with Charlotte FC. And all I know is that once it is signed, Almirón will be a great addition to our club. And I would really look forward to him joining us and playing for us. So pretty much there and there, that's for me a confirmation that Miguel Almirón is going to leave St James's Park in January. How much are they going to get from him? Probably not very much at all. 10 to 15 million, you would say at most. But any pennies are very welcome in the Newcastle coffers at the moment, because it will help them, be able to build up that PSR leg room. Now, Charlotte FC go back to pre-season on the 12th of January, which is the same day that Newcastle play Bromley in the FA Cup at St James's Park. So will Almirón start that game? You would probably argue not if he's going to go. They don't want to risk him getting injured. Maybe he might get a farewell on the pitch at the end or at the start. Who knows? Look, I think he's been an absolutely brilliant servant for Newcastle United. Without him, they would not have finished fourth in the Premier League a few seasons ago. That purple run he went on, I know he hasn't by any stretch of the imagination scored enough goals whatsoever. I totally get that. But I think we have to praise him for what he has done. Some spectacular goals. Always give us all 100%. You can never doubt his commitment, always effort. Okay, the talent wasn't there, the goal scoring ability maybe wasn't always there, but never doubt what he gave to his desire to win for Newcastle United. He loves this club. He's given his all. And I think at times he's been very badly treated by certain sections of the fan base, especially on social media. For all he's lacked in front of goal, like I say, the commitment and effort and cause that he's given to this club can never be doubted. And we should always be thankful for what he's given us as a fan base and what he's given us as a club, as a player to the club, getting us to the Champions League. Got a massive hand in that. Don't ever forget that. And I think everyone should be wishing him well when he eventually does return to Charlotte FC. I said Christian Fuchs there was the manager of Charlotte FC, and then in my head I was like, I'm sure it's Dean Smith, and it is Dean Smith, right? He is assistant to Dean Smith. So there you go. One to watch in a couple of weeks. Be interesting to see how much money they get from but any money you suspect they'll manage to raise this January will increase the likelihood that they can go out and sign someone next month. You don't want to be waiting until the summer for another signing. I don't think Paul Mitchell will want to be waiting another window to get a new body in. I don't think Eddie Howe will want to be waiting. I don't think the players who are already here will want to be waiting. One player, please, one player in January. Boost everyone's spirits even more. Enhance that competition. It's not just the position that player comes in that the competition will be enhanced. It's throughout the squad, because you want to impress, you want to leave an impression. So there's so many boosts to signing a new player, not just the ability that you're bringing in. And if Miguel Almiron's sale can aid that next month, then I'm all for it. And he can get some game time as well and make a difference back in the MLS. There we go, Major League Soccer. And who else could go? Well, Kieran Trippier came off last night. Another tweak it looked like he had to that hamstring, similar to the one he picked up the last game at St James's Park before the visit to Old Trafford. He wanted to stay on, didn't he? He came back on and then was substituted. Didn't look too happy about it, but I'm sure Eddie Howe was just being cautious. Could he go in January? Newcastle wouldn't get much money for him. There's no chance of selling Callum Wilson. Sean Longstaff is the other one that they're talking about, potentially to Everton. I saw a report that said he'll go for as low as £10 million, which is a bizarre statement, I feel, because he could really do a job at Everton. I know Sean, a bit like Miggy, has got his critics, but £10 million for Sean Longstaff? Nah, surely not. That's absolutely crackers. I know his contract. Is it up? There was reports that he'd signed a new deal kind of behind closed doors. He has. So he signed a year extension June the 30th, 2026. So he signed that year extension. So it's not like Newcastle United have to cash in now to get maximum money. But obviously, you leave it till the summer, the value probably goes down a little bit. If he's not playing, he's not in the shop window. I think his performances this season, not praised by everyone, but I think his performance this season will have impressed some. And I think he would be a great addition to Everton. But for £10 million, come on, you're having a laugh. If Everton want him, you're looking, I would say, hopefully 20, 25 million. I think this is the key for Paul Mitchell in January. Obviously, he needs to make the numbers work, and the rest of the board need to make the numbers work to ensure Newcastle can buy without getting punished by the PSR rules. But if they are going to sell players, they have to ensure that they are selling players for the maximum they can get. Now, Sean's a little bit different to the likes of Miguel Almiron or the likes of Callum Wilson or Kieran Trippier. Those three contracts running down towards the end of their careers haven't really done too much. You can't really be asking 25, 30 million for them because, the facts don't add up. But with Sean, he's got his best years ahead of him, really. He's only 27. He's got time ahead of him to get even better in the right environment with constant game time. And he signed that year extension. I think £10 million would be absolutely scandalous. It really, really would. You'd be better off not selling them, to be quite honest with you. So if he goes, Everton, I really hope you don't get a bargain. I hope you have to pay 20, 25 million for Sean Longstaff. I don't think that would be asking too much, to be quite honest with you. It'd be a great signing. He's probably the one most likely, I think, to go. And the one Newcastle fans would be happy to let go. You don't want to be letting your Brunos, your Isaacs, your Gordons go, even for hundreds of millions of pounds sort of thing. But with Sean, I think he's probably the one that fans would be happy to see go. Thank you for your service, but if you're raising £20 million, then we'll see you down at Goodison Park. But one to watch there, of course, the window doesn't open until tomorrow, and we'll bring you podcasts throughout the month of our insight, our understanding, our knowledge of what's going on with myself and Aaron Stokes primarily, but others as well. So do watch out for that. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. What a way to end 2024. Newcastle United beating Manchester United 2-0, dominating down at Old Trafford, just their third win down there since 1972, and it sets themselves up for a fantastic start to the year with Spurs next on the calendar, then Bromley, and then the likes of, they've got Arsenal in that midweek as well in the League Cup, and then you've got Wolves, Bournemouth as well to come. So a really good month ahead for Newcastle United. They can keep this momentum going. They've got the platform there thanks to that win over Manchester United at Old Trafford. As I said, turning point, reset of the mindset, in my opinion. Big win with more than just those 3 points that they picked up. Wow. Can't believe it. Newcastle United 2, Manchester United 0 at Old Trafford. Absolutely brilliant. Right, guys, have a brilliant new year. Enjoy it tonight. You'll probably be staying in because the fireworks have been cancelled because of the weather warnings up and down the country. So perfect time to watch this with a glass of whatever you fancy. Have a good one. Thank you very much for tuning in.